Well, you don't try to out-argue a descendant of Nathan Lionel Rothschild, which is me. And I know some people think that's crazy, but it's not not a fallacy. Let me put it to this way: my great grandfather was the illegitimate son of Duke Albert Edward, who later became Edward VII, and his father's actual father was Lord Nathan Lionel Rothschild. So that's my three greats grandfather, I believe. So anyway, I'm going to set the record straight, and you know what? I know how the New York Times is actually pushing for, what is it, the AR-15 and NRA and all this kind of garbage. Well, first off, we're going to talk about something else. First, we got to make sure that we stand for freedom. And freedom, besides seceding from the Union, means two wheels, like motorcycles, right? I'm not going to put a Confederate flag up here this time because I'm going to put motorcycles. You know, freedom really means two wheels, getting out there in the wind and the hell with the freaking devil may care, take some risk and all that kind of garbage. Now, let's get on to something else. Now, you remember up in New York City, just recently, they had, was it a $250,000 fine for not allowing a transgender to use the bathroom of their choice. Then they made it whereby if you use the wrong term, whatever it was, like if there's a transgender or transsexual or it's a gender blender, that one is kind of funny. I like that term, man, gender blender. And then you had male to female, female to male, lesbian, bisexual, transgender. I don't know, whatever. There's a lot of terms, and they have them on the law in the books in New York City. If you don't use the right term for somebody, you can get up to a $250,000 fine, and it could be even higher if you maliciously did not use the right term for somebody. Now, these terms are not even defined by Berkeley University. Now, I'm getting on to something here, very important. You see, since it's a $250,000 fine to, freaking use the wrong term. Now, what about if you hurt a transgender? What about if you hurt a gay or a lesbian or a bisexual? What would happen then? Now, let me put it to you this way. Suppose there's a group of individuals that are out to hurt gays and lesbians and transgenders, and it's their actual whole core being that is saying that these people should die. Well, such a group is actually, we're seeing it, is coming from Islam, just like the shooter said. Now, you can say no, but you know what? I keep hearing it over and over again. You know, as a matter of fact, when we're talking about some of the things, so in other words, I say that the lesbian, transgender, gay, and gender blender, transvestite, male to female, female to male. I'm missing some in there. Berkeley doesn't even have all these terms defined. University of Berkeley, Southern California. But the thing is, if that's bad to just use the wrong term inadvertently to a person, and you get fined, hundreds of thousands of dollars and even more if it's malicious, what about people say they should die? And it's part of their culture and religion to say that they die. Should they not be fined? Yes, they should. So that's just logical, right? All the way. So, now we can talk about the gun thing here a little bit, but first we got to get the money from these people that are telling, because they're violating New York law, the spirit of New York law. When you're saying that, people, and when you're a part of an organization or a religion that advocates these things, not only using the wrong terms. The reason the wrong terms would be like, running a stoplight at, 1 mile an hour, and when you're actually killing somebody, that's like freaking running a car into a crowd. So there's what's going on is there's actually a whole group of people out there politically and religiously, and through dogma and whatever. I don't know what the hell, but you hear it all the time on the internet. People should be killed. They'll say that, right? So they should be charged for that. Now, why would when you have a group in like Christendom or something like that, and they talk about, well, we shouldn't have abortion or whatever, or if they advocate something that's political, they can lose their 501c status, which means they're a nonprofit, right? Now, why would the Islamic type people have a 501c status? Like Omar, the guy that killed all the people in a gay club, which we got to look into this a little more because I remember Sandy Hook turned out to be something way different. I don't know what happened there for sure, but the Omar had a nonprofit organization registered in the state of Florida, or nonprofit. So obviously, if you say the wrong term and address a person as the wrong term, guess what happens? You get hundreds of thousands of dollar fine. Well, the Muslim Islamic communities must owe the gay communities and the New York City state, by their laws, hundreds of millions of dollars. So, time to bring this to the courts. Glad you brought up this stuff, Obama. I'm glad you did. Because, see, karma's a bitch, and it comes right around. And when you're dealing with me, you're dealing with the wrong person, because I have been very good at fighting for the people I work for. Now I'm just kind of fighting for the people. And I usually think out, it's like I'm shrewd enough to freaking turn it around. And I'm just playing it out. It's just fair is fair. If it's illegal to freaking talk about or bad and be fined to be talking about and saying, well, I thought that person was a male to female. Well, no, they're a gender blender. You should have said they were a gender blender. Well, you got a $100,000 fine. Well, that's a word, right? That didn't really hurt somebody, really, Now, what about people are trying to say, kill them? They should be fined. Big time. And because actually they're acting out what they're saying. Now, I want to also tell you, though, besides, I'm going to get onto the gun thing here pretty soon, but you know what? It's going to be more important than that is food. See this refrigerator? Fill it the hell up and get yourself some bags of beans and whatever the hell it is. Now, the New York Times is actually advocating and saying that the NRA has been the cause of the shooting because the guy got a gun. This is, wait a minute, the guy had special high security clearances. He had special permits. The NRA didn't approve that shit. The government approved it. And, even when he was on, the watch list or whatever it was, the FBI caught him. Well, you know what? I don't even know if the FBI was so like, Well, you know what it is? They're afraid to freaking say anything against Muslims because it's politically incorrect because of Mr. Obama, Valerie Jarrett, the de facto president, and also Hillary Clinton's carpet-munching girlfriend, Uma Aberdeen, and also the head of the Department of Homeland Security is a Muslim. And, General Petraeus, he's on the payroll for the freakings from the Saudis, right? And there's more Muslims in there. So, it's real fair when you're dealing with this. I know, like, all these religions aren't cool, because I know, like, when the Catholic Church was really strong in Europe, way back when, I mean, the Pope was, like, a load of shit, and he's actually still a load of shit. And I'm Catholic, okay? And I think I'm more Jewish, though. I'm getting really fed up with all these religions. Anyway, but the New York Times is, like, they're trying to say, the NRA caused this. I was like, yeah, right, sure. It's like the guy, actually what's going on is I think there was more people that knew that this guy was going to do something, especially in the place where he worked in the security company, which was the security company for the Department of Homeland Security, which was bringing in non-Mexican illegal aliens from the Mexican border. In other words, non-Mexican, in other words, Muslims and jihadists and all this type of stuff, right? Bringing them in deep into the country, and the Border Patrol's getting all pissed off about it. You know what they ought to do is give them, I don't want to tell you what to do. I know what you can do. Anyway, so, they deliberately allowed this to happen, at least at the minimum. And, it had nothing to do with the freaking... We got too many gun control laws as it is. But, when I look at it like this, there's a gun control law out there right now that says if you have a domestic dispute, one time in your life, you're forever forbidden from buying a gun, ever. Which is, to me, that's ludicrous. But, the religion of, what do you call that, tolerance? The guys that tell people that you got to wear, the women, they have to wear a bag over your head, that religion, it's in the Quran that you freaking you beat your wife and how you're supposed to beat your wife, and it's like they do it as part of their religion all the time. But if you do that, so why is a group that advocates beating your wife allowed to have a weapon when whereby in America, if you just do that one time, you're never allowed to have a weapon. So, Mr. New York Times, can you answer that? No, you can't because you're stupid. I'm glad you brought up these points because I love to tell you how you screwed up. Okay. So in other words, if the whole religion with the Quran and Islam says beat your wife all you want and this the size stick you're supposed to use, well, that is just one time doing that, one domestic dispute, only one means you're forever forbidden from buying a gun. And that whole group is advocating doing this on a regular basis. So, New York Times, answer me that. Is that because the Muslim commander in chief is actually telling us he wants it this way for his people and he hates everybody else? Yeah, that's what he's saying. Actually, he should be killed by Muslim law because he's gay. Right? Because he lit up the White House like a Fruit Loop, right? Back when, the Supreme Court passed that decision, right? So by Muslim law, he should be killed. But, I'm saying by Muslim law. My law, I don't give a shit if he's gay, but I know what I don't like about the jackass, he's just totally facetious. But by Muslim law, the ones he's protected, but you know what the deal is? He's Muslim protecting them, but he can do anything he wants, which is pretty much how it works in those other countries. The Saudi family, the people on the top with the clerics in Iran. The grandson was freaking with the girlfriend. The girlfriend was driving of a cleric was driving a Porsche. Everyone else is fucking broke and starving, right? When they had the sanctions back, and the girlfriend crashed into a place and kills both of them. I'm like, yeah, okay, good. So anyway, I want to also say too. Yeah, I got the right to defend. This actually, I just scratched out my name and my unit and all this bullshit on here, but this is mine. Back in the Marine Corps, if you're on a rifle team, I'm going to tell you some shit about weapons a little bit here, real too, on this thing. Because, first off, if I wasn't in recon, I knew some people in recon, I wasn't in recon. But, I can tell you this. In recon, they can get any weapon they want without numbers. I'm not talking about, this is back before they had the 80% receivers and all that bullshit. They can get anything they want in recon. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. I kind of knew some of these guys and shit like that, and they're crazy fuckers, and so like they could do anything, and it's like, it's like I don't even know how they do that. I have no idea how they get these things, but they can do it. Because I knew some in recon. Actually, I don't want to say anything else about that because I don't know what that guy knows, because that's my cousin's son. He was a Marine Corps scout sniper in Iraq, political sniper. Now, me, I could probably, I wasn't doing that shit, but I shot very well, and it's my certificate of marksmanship excellence awarded to me, scratch me out, high shooter, 242. Now, if you're a Marine Corps rifle team, you can usually shoot in the 230s with a, shooting jacket, leather sling, match ammo, match barrel, and all that bullshit. And this was just camis and freaking regular crap. And, I was shooting higher than those guys, actually. But you know what? That's from practice. Now, I know I'm pretty rusty right now, but I can still shoot as long as somebody don't get the drop on me. And, it really comes down to it if they're really trying to kill us. There's enough of us around that it's probably going to make a difference. You know what I mean? So I don't want anybody getting all freaked out about shit, okay? There's enough of us around it, but you could tell that I'm pretty calm, right? You know what I mean? I don't give a shit. I mean, I realize, their game, and I also realize, how the New York Times is trying to argue the situation that it was the NRA's fault. Really? Bullshit. Actually, I think it has a lot to do with, it was to set up the event in the first place. They're saying that the FBI investigated this guy a few times, but I guarantee you, since he was in the security company and there was a lot of stuff going on where probably people knew what he was about that were close co-workers, and the DHS is actually headed by a Muslim, and he was working with the DHS, and you can see what their policy is. They're bringing in radical elements illegally, so to create problems, so they can freaking put the hammer down on the USA. And the New York Times is all part of that shit. Um, but probably would be best to secede from the Union. But it wouldn't just be the South that secedes from the Union. It ought to be Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, most of freaking Pennsylvania, upstate New York, you know, and like leave New Jersey, the New York metropolitan area, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, and the eastern part by Boston and Maine, and a good part of Delaware, and also D.C., of course, in Baltimore. They could be their own little country. The hell with everything. And you're talking Western Virginia and West Virginia and Western Virginia and Western Maryland. Yeah, they could be their own country, with the North, right? Or maybe we just need to, like most of the country, secede from the armpit of the world, which is actually the Northeast, where all the crap comes from, the New York Times, right? Maybe that'd be the next secession, because the last time they tried secession, it was like just the South. But maybe it needs to be like the South with, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, upstate New York, most of Pennsylvania. And you leave the one armpit or the a-hole of the world, like which centers in on New York City power structure. Just let them, be their own country. And, you put a wall around that shit. The people are going to say where we're getting our food from, and then I don't know, they'll go into the New York Times and they'll, take action. So that's one way. All right? So, anyway, think free, ride free, and, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, whatever the hell it is. And, just going to give you an update on this because, like I said, just to repeat it again, if it's illegal in New York City, the same city that's advocating the NRA did all this and that, did this and that. If it's illegal for, to say the wrong term to a person if they're a male to female and they're actually a part-time, whatever, trender blender, well, you know what? If that's finable with, $100,000 plus, and if you say, in a bad way, it could be like way over 250,000. Well, what the hell? What is it when a whole group of people is organized under a 501(c)(3)(c) nonprofit, not paying taxes to spread hate? They're violating New York City law. I mean, not only are they not using the right term for gender blender, they're advocating killing on gender blenders and transvestites and whatever the lesbian, bisexual, transgender, gay community. Is that how it is? I forgot which way the acronym goes. You see what I mean? They need to be by New York law. They need to be fined just because what they're doing. See, New York Times, you need to answer for this shit. Okay. Anyway, but you know what? They need to bring this up to court. Sometimes I wish I was running the NRA, man. Oh, I would have so much fun with these people. Because, the NRA gets all pissed off and they fucking get defensive. I would have so much fun with them. It's freaking ridiculous, man. And, I play dirty tricks. I mean, if the asshole is going to argue with me, I'll put a whoopee cushion down on their freaking chair and he goes to sit down and says, like, put a stick with a match and stick it in their shoe and light it when they're freaking talking. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? And, play games with them because, the damn freaking New York Times, blow me. We don't need this freaking place. And I don't understand how they freaking even sell anymore. Who the hell's buying this bullshit? But you know what I realize? Who's buying the bullshit is in New York. That's why we need to secede from the asshole of the world, which is New York metropolitan area, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Eastern Massachusetts, Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C. And most of the Northeast, that's kind of like in outlying areas, they'd be fine, That's the way I look at it. All right? So, next time we have a secession, we got to have most of us secede from the malignant cancerous tumor that is right in the center of the Northeast. You know how do I know it? It's a malignant cancerous tumor. I was up there. That's where I was from. That's where I'm from, man. I'm from right across the river from New York. I was like, I just walk up the hill. I could see the Empire State Building and the freaking, the damn skyline, man. Anyway, have a nice day, New York Times. You're getting flushed down the toilet. Bye.